Hey guys, it's me, Glombus Wombus, here to give you all an update on what's going on with the plans for Battle for Obama Hamburger. Also, if my voice sounds a little bit weird right now, it's because my sinuses are clogged because I'm a little bit sick. I'll start out with the Episode 2 remaster, since I'm pretty sure that most people are curious about that one right now. Progress on the Episode 2 remaster is going pretty smoothly. The script had been completed for a while, as I wrote the scripts for Episode 1 and Episode 2 at the same time, so by the time I had finished Episode 1, the script for Episode 2 really only needed some slight touch-ups before it was completed, such as adding the recommended character cameos. Speaking of the recommended character cameos, almost all of the voice acting for them is done already. Really, we only need to figure out the situation with one of the recommended characters, as Studiery was supposed to voice them, but it's looking like he might not be able to, and I may need to find a replacement for them, which is perfectly fine. So now let's talk about what's probably even more important when it comes to voice acting for the episode, the voice acting for the main 5 contestants. When it comes to this section, I really want to give a huge shout out to the voice actor of Mr. Stackers, who is very passionate about this show and voice acting. He actually got all of his lines done for the episode a few days after the script had been finalized, which was really impressive. When it comes to Sewer Drain and Mr. Green's Belt, we're in a bit more of a tough spot with those two, as we record all the audio during school, and we're just struggling to find the time for those two to record their lines. However, I would say Sewer Drain is about a third of the way done with his voice acting, and I would say that Mr. Green's Belt is about halfway done. Now, as for the other 3 goobers, aka Glombus Wombus, the lovely voice speaking to you right now, Lawsuit Document, and Textbook, the voice acting with those 3 is a little bit differently since it's done by me, as I do all the voice acting for those 3 while I'm audio editing the scenes. Speaking of scenes, you'd think this early on in production we wouldn't really have anything done in that department. However, I have actually fully animated 2 out of the 21 scenes for the episode already. This is primarily because as soon as voice acting starts, I set a goal for myself that I want to be able to finish at least 1 scene per week. That way I'm making a significant amount of progress on the episode, regardless of whether or not voice acting is finished. Speaking of animation, I have not assigned any scenes to Studiery or Curb yet, as I don't really like assigning scenes before audio is done, since, you know, I'd have to wait to assign their actual proper stuff for quite a while. Which means that I don't have the scenes assigned to everybody yet, although I do have a general idea of what at least 1 scene that I want to give to Studiery. While we're in the topic of animation, let's get into the progress on props and backgrounds for the episode. When it comes to the assets for the recommended characters, I finally completed all of those, meaning all of the side characters that show up in the episode now have proper assets, and those are no longer needing to be done. However, I still need to make some props for the episode, you know, like random little things they use, and I also need to make a few of the backgrounds. A few backgrounds are already done thanks to Studiery being like an absolute Chad and making both a background for the elimination area and a background for one of the smaller scenes in the episode. I can't believe I said Chad. I don't talk like that. Why did I say that? Fortunately, really only 2 or 3 of the backgrounds that still need to be made are like complicated ones, so the making all the backgrounds shouldn't be that hard, and props are never that complicated. The issue with props is just that I'm lazy. So that just about covers everything that needs to be mentioned about Episode 2. However, I actually have something else I want to talk about before getting into Season 2. That is that Episode 3 is also being remastered. This is because Episode 3 is the last of the episodes that I would consider bad in Season 1, as I find Episodes 4 through 8 pretty endearing and charming in their own ways, and I don't think they need to be modified at all. Part of the issue with the original version of Episode 3 is that there was no challenge, and the elimination happened kind of late into the episode, and most of the dialogue was really one-off stuff that wasn't really, delved into that much, so part of the thing I'm doing with the Episode 3 remaster is trying to have more of a plot going on, even without a challenge going on. I also feel that this is a good time to remind you guys that these remakes are now the canonical versions of these episodes, meaning the original versions of Episode 1 through 3 are non-canon, and these remakes are the new canon versions. That means that changed plot elements, such as Glombus Wombus now working with a company to produce the show, are the new canonical explanation for things. This might seem fairly irrelevant in the scope of things, and I wouldn't blame you for thinking that, considering the show being produced wasn't really a big plot element in Season 1. However, it becomes a lot more relevant in Season 2, which is why I mention it. This also connects back into the reason why I'm remastering Episode 3, as something that happened in the original version of Episode 3 becomes quite relevant in Season 2, and I feel like in the original version of episode 3, it was incredibly hard to follow, and honestly, I feel like it was kind of hard to tell it even happened. With all this talk about Season 2, I think it's about time I get into the plans for that. Season 2 is going to be similar to late Season 1, more specifically episodes 4 through 8, meaning we're going back to the improvised style, unlip-synced animation, and goofier, less connected plot points. This was always the plan for Season 2 from the beginning, however I only clarified this as I'm worried that the remakes are going to make people think that Season 2 is going to be styled similar to the remakes when it isn't. I should clarify that this doesn't mean that we're not putting any effort into Season 2, it just simply means that we're going back to the style of episodes 4 through 8. What you can expect for Season 2 right now is to have 13 to 14 contestants initially. The reason I specify initially is similar to Season 1, debuts will happen quite commonly within the season. Another thing happening with Season 2 is that we are bringing back the strike mechanic, where when a character gets the most votes, they get a strike, and they have to get the most votes twice in order to be eliminated. We'll just blatantly admit that this entire gimmick is only there to help extend Season 2 and give it more episodes. Originally, we were going to try to make Season 1 last for as long as possible by debuting tons of people and making the strike system and stuff. However, I realized that trying to make a show that started off with only 4 contestants last for a long time was just not very reasonable, so that's why we decided to do Season 2 starting with a much larger cast, as that's a lot easier to make last a long time. If you thought that Season 1 was crazy with its constant change in game rules and constant debuts, you are just not prepared for Season 2, because Season 2 will be intentionally toning that up, as we think it's fun to make the show as chaotic and unpredictable as we can possibly make it, as that's what we have the most fun doing. Season 2 will basically have no rules, and we will just change things as we feel like. The current plan for Season 2 is to just keep producing the show until we either get bored and then proceed to let the show, run normally with no more debuts and crazy game rule changes and just letting the show finish its course naturally, or run it until the school year ends, since we improvise all the audio at school and producing the show as we currently do outside of school would be a lot more difficult and the show just wouldn't be able to run the way it does now. So, this all comes down to release dates now. As for Episode 2 Remastered, you can expect it coming out probably sometime either mid-February or late February. As for Season 2 Episode 1, this may be surprising, but you can probably expect the first episode to come out before Episode 2 Remastered. This is primarily because the show will be improvised and also animated without lip sync, meaning it can be produced a lot faster, and we plan to start doing the audio as soon as we finish voice acting for Episode 2. Sorry, I had to re-record that end part because I ran out of breath. Oh yeah, and once the remasters for Episodes 2 and 3 are done, you can actually expect me to start progress on a new, non-joke scripted show. You can expect the same team behind the BFOH remasters to be behind this new show. For what this new show is, you can expect it to be a sort of continuation / soft reboot of Battle for Control the World Rebooted. For those of you who don't know, Battle for Control the World Rebooted was one of my first ever object shows I created, and a few of the characters in that I am very, very, very attached to, and I really want to use them in a successful show that gets finished properly. Anyways, I think that's about it for everything I needed to cover in this little announcement video thing. Thank you all for watching, and I seriously appreciate all the support on the episodes you guys have given me. I mean, especially with how quickly episode 1 got 1,000 views. That was absolutely insane. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I can't wait to show you guys what we have in store.